you very much. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, Mr. Chairman, Dr. Gauri Shankar. Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure to be here once again after 4 years, after 2 years of COVID, and happy to see you all in person. As someone put it recently, we're now living once again through an age of historic firsts. But in fact, it was in 1961 when the first human flew into space, and then the international cooperation, in fact, it was not international cooperation back then, it was space environment was driven rather by competition between superpowers than cooperation. And then when the Americans got to the moon, in my view, everything, like the progress stalled, because what next? The technology readiness level was not yet there, but it took 40 years when the first space tourist, Dennis Tito, flew to the International Space Station in 2001, and the commercial space flights to the ISS became more or less regular. And today, things once again keep changing with a different pace, hitting escape velocity, in a way. For GlovCosmos, everything started in 1985, when we started coordinating international space projects for the Soviet Union, and then for Russian Federation, providing complex solutions for governments, industries, and private customers. With our Indian partners, the beginning was in the beginning of the 1990s, and today this cooperation received new impetus due to the new steps in the Indian space program. And today, one could hardly, I mean, it goes without saying that complex space projects cannot be handled by a single nation alone, especially such projects as deep space exploration, human space flights, and we're still, and we keep dreaming about returning to the moon, about going to Mars and beyond. And probably ISS, the International Space Station, has been the most vibrant example of such international collaboration in space for nearly a quarter of a century. But what we notice today, that all this is happening against a rather troublesome background. Regional conflicts, resource scarcity, climate change, and all this influences really a lot our space sector. And for industry, for space industry, this is both challenge and opportunity. But what happens next? By the way, there is also a financial dimension to that, because several nations started to carry out financial exchanges, mutual payments in national currencies. I guess that would also contribute to some sort of fragmentation of space economy and of global economy as well. We also note the continuous militarization of space. I cannot but mention that because we have experience of working with our agencies responsible for regulation, for space legislation, and when we come to them offering to launch a foreign satellite or a Russian launch vehicle, more often we're being replied that this is going to be used for military purposes, so this could be used for military purposes. So today, nearly every spacecraft can be considered a dual-use product, and this complicates the whole procedure. But despite this fact, scientific projects were always like something sacred. I mean, holy macaroni, one cartoon character put it. I mean, no one really tried to get rid of them, despite any political discrepancies, until recently. Unfortunately, there is an example. You all know about ExoMars project, a joint project between two space agencies, the Russian Space Agency and European Space Agency, where the rover was supposed to fly to Mars on a Russian-built rocket, European-made rover, using a Russian-made platform, landing platform. And the goal was to learn if life ever existed on Mars. Well, unfortunately, the European Space Agency took a decision to unilaterally terminate this project, and that's a shame, because many, at least a generation of Russian and European scientists intended to tie their careers with this project. And I would reiterate, I mean, what Christopher told us all here as well. I totally agree that science, you must not throw science under the bus in any circumstances. But anyway, I remain optimistic in the long run because there are such global problems that require multilateral collaborative action, such as space junk, such as asteroid threat, which is a threat to the humankind, in fact. And I'm fully convinced that we cannot cope with some sort of a government support here as well. The government has to set transparent regulations, clear rules. It must get rid of as many administrative barriers as possible. I know that very well by working in the Russian bureaucratic environment. But on the other hand, I cannot recall a single private space company that could manage to survive without some sort of governmental support. So the bottom line is keep science alive. Don't throw it under the bus in any geopolitical circumstances. Thank you very much. I'm ready for further discussion.